Who am I? What do I know? I mean, am I even really going to be helping people this way? It's just all a waste of time. Don't even bother. How many times have you in your life started to work on something, thought about starting to work on something, a passion project, maybe that's applying for a new job position, whatever it may be, right? And you get these little voices in your head that tell you, like I just said, what do I know? You're not good enough. I mean, is this even worth your time? We are clouded by these questions that come up in our mind, and especially for those of us who are so driven and so motivated to be out there and be doing productive things with our lives in order to help people, we always come across these kind of questions. We almost are in our own way of getting to where we want to go and who we want to be and what we want to do. So I'm starting off by really saying this because it's exactly everything that I have gone through to get myself down to sitting here and recording the first episode ever of my podcast. This idea of starting a podcast has been in my mind for, I don't even know, like over 3 years now, over 4 years. And every time I had an idea, I would put that on my notes page on my phone. And over the last 3, 4 years, I've just kind of been building my notes page with all these ideas of things that I want to talk about, but with no real action behind it. And when I was thinking about what the first episode I wanted to make this podcast about, trust me, I thought about a lot of different things. I thought about, maybe they want to hear about my travel because my platform on my social media is mainly built off of travel. And then I thought about maybe they want to hear about, being a first generation slash immigrant that moved to the United States and is trying to navigate this life of being South Asian, Indian, but also, being in the Western world and navigating through that. Maybe they want to hear about that. And then I thought about hey, maybe they want to hear about relationships and what it's like to navigate relationships, especially being in my upper 20s and almost 30 in a few months. And then, obviously, thinking about all of this, I pushed myself to a corner and just being so overwhelmed by all the different things I want to talk about. And it just occurred to me one day that, hey, maybe I just need to take this microphone that I'm holding in my hand right now and just talk about this exact process. Just talk about this process of just feeling like I'm not ready, feeling like I am not perfect, feeling like I am not just ready to take this new step. And so that's why this first episode of this podcast, Mindset Mentors, is titled Perfectly Imperfect, Overcoming Procrastination. So, to start off, I just want to say that procrastination is often a symptom of perfectionism. You know, you don't realize that your delay that you're participating in by not getting up and doing that thing you want to do or said you were going to do. It's not because you don't care. It's because you care so much. And like I said, getting out of your own way really is how you have to mentally prep yourself to think about this and go about it. You feel so crippled, you feel so overwhelmed because you think, what if it's not perfect? You know, you think, oh, if it's not perfect, will it be liked by people? Would it be accepted by people? And what I want to really talk about as I go through this sort of, I don't know, it's probably going to be a 30-minute chat, maybe longer. Bear with me, guys. This is my first recording podcast, and I'm really trying to do this whole thing in one take, so just bear with me. As I go through this podcast episode, I really just want to talk about this idea of how Perfection does not exist. It really does not exist. And the crazy thing about this is that we believe that perfection is what will be accepted by the masses, and perfection is what people are looking for. But it's really not. It's really not. From my almost 30 years of living this life of being an adult and living an adult life and getting through college and my corporate job and all of that, what really people are looking for is authenticity. And so we're going to explore this further, but that's sort of the premise of what episode one is going to be about. So, coming back to me talking about creating content and all of that, I have been creating travel content for almost 5 years now. I took it really more seriously maybe 3 years ago, where I was posting more consistently. And throughout this process of creating content, I just had this one belief in me, and that belief was I wanted to create content that I would want to see, or I want to create content that I want to hear. So, for example, with this episode, questions like, well, I don't know what I'm doing or what inspo I can give to others. I don't even have my own ish together. Who am I to feel like I'm good enough to give advice to other people? So understand that perfection only exists in your mind. So this is number one, right? Perfection is basically a standard that is set in your mind and a standard that you want to meet. It's a standard that is created purely in our own minds. So we believe that if our work does not reach that standard that we have in our minds, we're not good enough. And that's just simply not the truth. This is far from the truth. A large part of what we're missing here is that the standard that is being created, it lives only in our minds. No one else really has this insight to what it is that's in your mind. So get out of your own way. People are only looking to connect with what content you're putting out there, the words you're saying, the script you're writing, the captions you're writing, whatever form of content or whatever in life that you're trying to do, right? People want to connect with authenticity and how that authenticity relates to them. So the key is really being more relatable. It's not about being perfect. Number two is silence that external noise, or I guess you could say public opinion, right? So now let's say you do come across some people that are naysayers and haters, and you have to have a profound understanding that you cannot make everyone happy. It's an idea that you have to deeply absorb into your bones, regardless of whatever art you're looking to pursue or reality you're looking to create. Accept that not everyone will be a cheerleader for you, and that's okay. And once you really get to that level of acceptance, you will fully allow yourself to express your most authentic self. And that authentic self is exactly what's going to resonate with people, not how perfect you are in pronouncing your words, how thoughtful you are in forming big girl sentences. So again, get out of your own way. Get out of your own way. For example, when I first started making content, I I had this like expectation that my friends at that time, my friends and family will support me no matter what. When I was posting things prior to that, I would get a lot of support, which is really funny, because the moment feel like I started posting in collaboration and doing things like that, the support was kind of slowly fading away. But I hope you're seeing what I'm telling you here. Like, you're not always going to be loved and accepted by anyone. Like, nobody owes you that. What you owe is to yourself, which is to show up as your most authentic self. And if that resonates with people, you will see the results for it. And if it doesn't resonate with people, you have to have the mindset of, I still showed up, and even if that helps one person, I'm good. It really comes down to that, especially in content creation. And also understand that, and this is number three, is that nothing is set in stone. Life is always evolving, it's changing, it's moving. And just think about yourself as an individual, right? You are not the person that you were maybe 6 months ago. And you definitely are not the person that you were a year ago. You've gone through just like so much of life, new experiences, met a whole lot of new people, had perspective changes, and overall experienced growth to some capacity in the last like a year or so. And so just knowing to allow yourself to be okay with that, and the fact that your art will also grow and evolve, is something that you have to be really okay with and comfortable with. It will become something that may be so different from when you began, and that's part of the beauty of it. So give your idea, project, art the same grace that you see like maybe a plant that you're watering, and allow it to grow its roots, sprout its leaves, and just go through the process of just life to become what it's meant to be. And planting the seed is just as beautiful as the flower that it blooms. So see your idea or your project as that. So when I'm making this podcast, and it's just the first episode, there's a lot of things that I know that I am making mental notes of that I should correct in my further episodes. But I see this first episode as that seed that I am planting, and I am seeing this seed to be just as beautiful as my maybe 20th episode, where it's a lot more perfected, and maybe we'll have better audio, maybe we'll be on video, maybe we'll have more followers, maybe we'll have more listeners. So just have that mindset of the day you start is just as beautiful as that day that you dream of when you made it, quote unquote. And this is number four, and this is the last thing I want to talk about. And this is something that I struggle with basically every day. And that is this idea that, again, I have in my mind, and one of my biggest fears, which is the fear of failing publicly. I hate to break it to you, but honestly, no one cares. Just as much as perfection is a standard that we create in our minds for ourselves, so is failure. And the fear of failing is actually, like I said, one of my biggest fears. And this thought of like, that cripples me, which is, but what will people think about me? And that statement, and I see it now as someone who has been through a lot of spiritual work and healing and working on myself and all of that, that statement is so entirely ego based. And it's just that it's not, again, it's not a reflection of reality. So you have to develop this mindset of, so what? So what if I don't succeed in that one thing? So what if people laugh at me? So what if I I get called the class clown or whatever. You get the point. And the way I've done this, the way I've overcome this fear is really by the so what mindset. And then also realizing to see the beauty of trying, the beauty of putting yourself out there, the beauty of just knowing what you want and going for it. And to me, that has become insanely attractive when I look at myself and I look at myself trying and putting myself out there, regardless of the result. I feel incredibly attractive to be so brave. In the end of the day, you will always have haters, and you would have to silence those voices in your head. And this is a practice, it is a mindset practice. And hence, shout out to our podcast name, which is the Mindset Mentress. It really is a mindset practice. It's a way of living, it's a process. And it takes time. It takes time to start really building these new belief systems inside of you. But hey, you will get there. You will get there. I got there. And again, one of the reasons that I'm making this podcast is to maybe share a few things that I have learned throughout my life, and almost being 30, is that your life is what you make it to be. And a lot of the times we need to get out of our own ways. And so embrace that feeling of imperfection, embrace that feeling of not feeling good enough or ready enough to really go for your dreams. Imperfection screams authenticity and will, trust me, resonate positively with those who are really aligned with your vibration. And understand that some will never resonate with your authenticity, and that's okay. We're not all meant to be alike and resonate with the same ideas. And that's the beauty also of life. I mean, you don't resonate with every single podcast that's out there either, and that's okay. And we're all here on different paths and different practices and different ways and walks of life. And that's the beauty, really the beauty of it. And when we find each other, it's even more beautiful because it's like, hey, it's like finding your soul family. We'll talk about all of that. I mean, I'm talking about multiple different subjects that I want to have full podcast episodes about within this one episode. But again, I'm so sorry, you guys. This is my first one. You know what? Actually, I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry. Let me take that back. I just bear with me. Bear with me as we go through this journey of podcasting where you will see me sometimes or hear me sometimes talking out loud about other things that are going on in my brain. Like right now, I'm having like thoughts about how I can better this episode and how I want to cut it. But I'm leaving that in there because to show you that I'm okay with not being perfect in this first episode. And so I don't want you to beat yourself up for being crippled and overwhelmed by inaction. It is true that sometimes, even if we may not be actively working towards our dreams, our subconscious is. Our subconscious is looking for confirmation bias. It's researching, collecting data points, and really learning on our behalf and placing these data points in almost like a save for later folder. So sometimes direct physical inaction is actually mental prep. As long as you're somewhere mindful of that progression happening, maybe internally. For me, like I wasn't sitting down and recording podcasts until today, but in the back of my mind over the last 3 years, I was thinking about how I want to structure a podcast. If I wanted to have a podcast, what it would, what would the name be? What would be the purpose of the podcast, who my audience would be. So these were things that were all sort of in my subconscious, in the back of my mind. And when I was researching, I was doing a lot of research actually behind the scenes until, today, where I actually sat down, where I was just kind of figuring out what a podcast by Nikki K would be like. So I was not physically acting by picking up a microphone and speaking, but I was doing a lot of mental rehearsal and mental work to get to this point. So be mindful of that. And then I think we're getting to, let's say, I can't tell how long it's been. I feel like it's maybe been about 20 minutes. I don't know. I'll see when I pause it. But just to conclude this episode, I just want to say, always remember that there is beauty in being perfectly imperfect. Regardless of whatever you're pursuing, know that your authenticity and acceptance is in embracing your imperfections. And that will always, 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 guys, trust me, serve as inspiration to another. So I always want to inspire you to be the best. So if you are feeling like you're not good enough, you're not ready enough for something, just know that there is beauty in being imperfect. And that concludes this episode 1 of Mindset Mentress. Perfectly Imperfect, Overcoming Procrastination. And I'll see you in the next episode with another topic.